Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
So the prayer has been said and the chair taken. However, there is a quorum hitch at the commencement of the sitting of the Senate. The Speaker has directed that the quorum bell be rung for 10 minutes as provided for in the House Standing Order number 40. This is, of course, to give room to members of the Senate to be able to hasten their steps and get into the chamber, to be able to join their colleagues who are already in the House, and most importantly, form or raise that much needed quorum for the House to be able to commence. So until that quorum is attained, we should be seeing members of the Senate making their way into the House. And as we wait for that, we shall continue to take a look at the business that the Senate this morning shall be transacting as they convene for this plenary sitting. And being a Wednesday morning, as is the tradition, the Senate is hosting 2 cabinet secretaries who were invited to appear before the House. Of course, this is to give comprehensive responses to matters concerning various sectors of the country, and could be matters relating to county, inter-county, national, regional, or even international concerns, matters that the Senate normally forwards to the ministry for the ministry to be able to compile comprehensive responses, so that as they appear before the House, they are able to respond to a number of concerns that the members of the Senate shall be responding. That is matters that could be, or other matters that relate to the questions that have been raised by the senators. So this particular morning, the Senate invited the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communications and Digital Economy, Honorable William Kabogo, who is already within the precincts of Parliament. And once the House quorates, the Honorable CS will be ushered into the chamber, take his position right next to the Speaker. We can see this stand where normally the Cabinet Secretaries take their positions to be able to give their responses or address the House regarding the matters that they are meant to respond to. The Senate also invited the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, commonly abbreviated as MSMEs Development, Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya, and the Cabinet Secretary for MSMEs Development has a number of questions, about 4 questions. The first question is from the Senator for Kisumu County, Honorable Professor Tom Ojenda, and he will be seeking to understand from the Cabinet Secretary measures that the ministry has adopted to cushion small-scale traders against eroded profit margins caused by the rising cost of essential commodities. The CS will also be required to clarify whether the ministry intends to expand access to affordable credit through the Hustler Fund, SACCOs, or other credit guarantee schemes for informal traders in Kisumu, given that current interest rates remain as high as 23 to 24%. The Senator for Kisumu County will also want the Cabinet Secretary to outline any safeguards that exist to ensure that women and youth traders who form the majority in Kisumu's informal, or rather who form the majority in Kisumu's informal markets, are equitably included in these credit support programs. The CS will also be responding to a question from the nominated Senator, Honorable Beth Siengo. And this question is around the laying off of the defunct Kenya Planters Cooperatives Union. The staff who worked under the defunct Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, that is KPCU. And this question will be around when the ministry will be ensuring payment of outstanding terminal dues to the staff that were laid off from the defunct Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, who total 402 and who were separated from service between 2002 and 2010 and who are owed approximately 400 million Kenya shillings. This question is also linked to whether the ministry has a comprehensive payment schedule for settlement of the said staff dues, indicating timelines, amounts payable, and beneficiaries, and also whether the schedule provides for interest accruing from the debt the payments fell due, including timelines for payment of such interest. This is a question that the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development, Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya, will be required to respond to. However, as I had indicated earlier, is that these questions are normally forwarded to the ministers, of course, prior the Cabinet Secretary's appearance before the House, for the ministry to be able to compile a comprehensive response if there is any data that the ministry would want to be referring to with regards to their responding to these questions. Then they can also be able to get that data and also present it before the floor of the House for consideration or for reference by the honorable senators. This is the proceedings of the Senate plenary sitting on this 13th day of May, in the year 2026, the morning sitting. It is a Wednesday morning, and the prayer has already been said and the chair taken. However, there is a quorum which at the commencement of the sitting of the House. Members of the Senate have made their way into the House. However, the House has not quorated yet, so the quorum bell is on. If you're just joining us, that the House is about to commence. The quorum bell is on for members of the Senate to be able to hasten their steps and also join their colleagues in the House, and also enable the House attain that much needed quorum for it to be able to commence and undertake the business that is lined up for consideration this morning. And this morning, the Senate is hosting two cabinet secretaries, or two invitations were forwarded to the Ministry of Information, Communications and the Digital Economy, where the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable William Kabogo, is already within the precincts of Parliament and is set to be ushered into the chamber once the House quorates. And also the Senate invited the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development, Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya, and the CS for MSMEs Development will be responding to a number of questions. There are about 4 questions from senators, but of course you also understand that members of the Senate also have an opportunity to do a follow-up. The first quorum bell has lapsed. Let's listen to the speaker.
Ring the quorum bell for another 10 minutes.
Well, the Speaker has directed for a further 10-minute quorum bell to be, or rather to continue. The first quorum bell has lapsed. The quorum is yet to be attained, and the Speaker has directed that the quorum bell be on for a further 10 minutes. This morning, the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development will also be responding to a question from the nominated Senator, Honorable Beth Siengo. This is a question that relates also to the defunct Kenya Planters Cooperative Union dues that are being owed by farmers. And this question, the senator would want to understand, or would want the Cabinet Secretary to explain when the ministry plans to pay outstanding proceeds due to coffee farmers for coffee sold through the defunct Kenya Planters Cooperative Union in the coffee pool year 2008 and 2009, which amounts to approximately 60 million Kenya shillings. The Cabinet Secretary will also be needed to explain further whether the ministry has a payment schedule for the affected farmers, indicating timelines, amounts payable, and beneficiaries, and whether the schedule provides for interest accruing from the date the proceeds fell due, including timelines for payment of such interest. The quorum has been attained. Allow me to hand you over.
We do have quorum, and therefore we will start the day's business. Clerk, kindly call the first order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Senators, we do have 5 questions. One directed to the CS-ICT and 4 directed to the CS in charge of cooperatives and micro, small and medium enterprises. I'm informed the CS in charge of ICT is already in the House. Clerk, can you confirm that, please? And then you usher the CS to the plenary. Honorable CS, welcome back to the Senate. You are before plenary for purposes of responding to question number 047 by the Senator Hamida Kibwana. Honorable Senator, you may proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome, Waziri, and I'll proceed with my question. Question number 1. Wana Waziri, kindly explain the legal, regulatory, and administrative safeguards currently in place to protect children in Kenya from cyberbullying, online exploitation, harmful content, gambling exposure, and abusive data harvesting practices on digital platforms. 2, what progress has been made in operationalizing child online protection standards such as age-appropriate design, parental controls, platform accountability, reporting mechanisms, and enforcement obligations for service providers operating in Kenya? Number 3, has the ministry undertaken an assessment of the exposure of minors in Kenya to harmful online content, manipulative digital advertising, gambling applications, and unlawful data processing in the last 5 years? And if so, what were the findings? The last one, what plans are in place to strengthen Kenya's child online protection framework by drawing from comparative approaches in jurisdictions such as the United Kingdom, Australia, and European Union on platform duties, child safety by design, and age assurances systems? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Mr. Speaker, I rise to respond on behalf of the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy to the questions raised by Senator Hamida Ali Kibwana, Member of Parliament, in her letter dated 8th of April 2026 on the protection of children in Kenya from cyberbullying, online exploitation, harmful content, gambling exposure, and abusive data harvesting practices on digital platforms. Mr. Speaker, before I develop the substance of the ministry's response, however, permit me to convey the apology of my ministry and my own personal apology for not having appeared before this House on the 29th of April 2026, the date originally appointed for the laying of this response. I am grateful to the Chair and to this House for the accommodation now granted. Honorable Senators will recall that the date in question fell within the Connected Africa Summit 2026, which the government of the Republic of Kenya had the honor of hosting at the Edge Convention Center in Nairobi from 27th to 30th April 2026. As aligned Cabinet Secretary, the Minister of Information, Communication and Digital Economy...
Now, Honorable CS, I do note that your response is fairly long. Now that you've already circulated the written response to the House, I would urge you to paraphrase so that we save on time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'm guided.
Thank you.
But allow me to do, I have done a summary. The main response is about 30 pages. I've done a summary of about 10 pages, which carries the substance. As I was saying, Honorable Chair, I trust that the House will appreciate that neither of these engagements, the ones I have just referred to, but I hope I have gotten the indulgence of the House to proceed with the substantive matter.
Proceed, CS.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to, at the onset, to thank the Honorable Senator bringing this matter before this House. The questions she has posted go to the heart of the constitutional obligation owed by the state and by all of us to safeguard the dignity, privacy, and welfare of our children. Indulging, and indeed especially in the digital spaces in which they now live, learn, and play. Honorable Senator, the Honorable Senator has asked 4 substantive questions. She has asked first, what legal, regulatory, and administrative safeguards are presently in place? She has asked secondly, what operational progress has been made on age-appropriate design, parental controls, platforms accountability, reporting mechanisms, and enforcement. She has asked thirdly, what the ministry has, in the last 5 years, assessed the exposure of our children to these harms. And she has asked fourthly, what plans we have to strengthen the framework, drawing from the experience of the United Kingdom, Australia, and the European Union. Mr. Speaker, the position of the ministry is twofold.
It's Madam Speaker, CS.
I noticed the change, beg your pardon, Madam Speaker. And I wish to state it plainly at the outset. First, Kenya has established substantial constitutional anchored framework for the protection of children in the digital environment. Secondly, that framework remains a work in progress with specific gaps which the ministry acknowledges candidly and which the reform agenda I shall outline today is designed to close. Madam Speaker, the response has been consolidated by the Ministry of Information with input from the Communications Authority, the Office of Data Protection Commissioner, the Media Council, the Kenya Film Classification Board, the Gambling Regulatory Authority, and the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee. Allow me, with your indulgence, to take each question in turn. Madam Speaker, on the legal, regulatory, and administrative safeguards, the safeguards presently in place are anchored on the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 28, which recognizes every person's inherent dignity. Article 29, which guarantees freedom from violence, from cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. And in the digital context, this extends to protection from cyberbullying, harassment, and the long-term effect of harmful online exposure. Madam Speaker, Article 31 guarantees the right to privacy, including respect of the unlawful collection, processing, and dissemination of children's personal data. Article 33 protects freedom of expression, but expressly excludes propaganda for war, incitement to violence, hate speech, and advocacy of hatred. Madam Speaker, Article 46 protects consumers, including children, as vulnerable consumers. And Article 53 guarantees the right of the child, including the principle that best interests of the child are of paramount importance in every matter concerning the child. Madam Speaker, these constitutional guarantees are given statutory force through several amendments, or enactments, sorry. The Kenya Information and Communication Act, Cap 411A, mandates the Communications Authority to facilitate and regulate secure electronic communications and transactions. The Children's Act, Cap 141A, criminalizes conduct frequently encountered in the online environment, including grooming, solicitation, cyber enactment, and exposure of children to obscene content. The Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, Cap 79C, as amended in 2025, criminalizes authorization access, the production and possession of child pornography, cyber stalking, and the non-consensual sharing of intimate images. The Sexual Offences Act, Cap 63A, addresses sexual exploitation, including in its online manifestations. The Data Protection Act, Cap 411C, provides heightened safeguards for the processing of children's personal data, requiring parental or guardian consent and prohibiting the profiling of children for direct marketing purposes. The Gambling Control Act of 2025 prohibits persons under the age of 18 from participating in any form of betting or gambling or gaming. And the Films, Stage, Plays, and Publication Act, Cap 222, empowers the Kenya Film Classification Board to classify audiovisual content, including content distributed through digital and online channels. Madam Speaker, this statutory framework is operationalized through 3 regulatory instruments issued in 2025, which constitute the heart of the present regime. They are the Industry Guidelines for Child Online Protection and Safety in Kenya, 2025, issued by the Communication Authority, the Code of Conduct for Media Practice of 2025, issued by Media Council of Kenya, and the Kenya Information and Communication Regulations Telecommunication Service Subscribers Regulations of 2025. Together, these instruments require age-appropriate design, default high privacy settings, parental controls, content moderation, watershed period restrictions, and parental or guardian involvement in the registration of minors on telecommunication networks. Madam Speaker, the consumer protection regulations are presently under review and undergoing public participation. Honorable Senators, the institutional architecture of the enforcement of these frameworks was classified by the High Court in 2024 decision in Kenya Union of Journalists versus Communications Authority of Kenya and another. Following that judgment, the position is now settled. The Media Council of Kenya leads on media content standards under Article 34, subsection 5. The Communications Authority retains responsibility for sectoral regulation.
Senator Halwale, what's the point of intervention?
Madam Speaker, almost 10 minutes into the minister's response, the minister is merely citing the relevant articles of the Constitution and the relevant acts. The purpose of the question is for him to tell us what he's doing with persons and organizations who are providers of ICT so as to protect our children. The laws he's reading were enacted in this parliament by him and myself. Tell us what you're doing with the persons and organizations who are providing this service.
Senator Halwale, your intervention is noted. Honorable Sears, kindly get to the gist of it. I think the response is very extensive in terms of citing the statutory provisions. I think the mover of the question wants to know why we continue having issues regardless of what you're citing in terms of the regulations and the law. Maybe you want to move quickly to explaining what is being done so that members can also ask the subsidiary questions. Thank you.
Indeed, Madam Speaker, I am trying very much to answer the questions as asked. I was not only citing the law itself, which I'm aware, and I was struggling with the first question, which was asking what laws. I explained the laws themselves, the regulations, and the amendments that we have done, and what it is that we are. I may just run to, I may avoid that part. Allow me to proceed. On the operational progress and the empirical code, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, I now turn to the Honourable Senator's second question, which is what operational progress has been made. I wish to take the unusual, but I believe necessary step of laying before this House the empirical record of regulatory enforcement during the period under review. Because the proof of any framework lies not in its statutes, but in its conduct. Honourable Senators, between February 2025 and April 2026, the Media Council of Kenya took 31 recorded enforcement actions in matters touching the protection of children. Of these 31 actions, 19, approximately 61% of the total, concerned gambling and lottery promotions, or published in breach of disclosure, age restriction, gambling license display, or watershed requirements. 8 actions concern sexual, vulgar, or otherwise age-inappropriate content broadcast during the watershed period and disseminated onward via social media. 4 actions concern the identification of minors who were victims of social violence or other sensitive matters in news reporting. And 4 other actions concerned other matters affecting children, including the publication of suicide scene images, images of deceased persons made accessible to minors, and the broadcasting of live protests during the watershed period. Madam Speaker, I draw 3 observations to the attention of this House. First, the fact that gambling-related actions account for some 61% of the recorded enforcement directly evidence both in the scale of the gambling exposure risk to which the Honourable Senator's question refers, and the active regulatory response to it. Secondly, the second largest category, sexual content broadcast during the watershed and disseminated onward via social medias. This confirms the convergence of broadcast and online distribution channels and the need for platform agnostic enforcement. Thirdly, the recurrence of certain media house cross-multiple actions has informed the Council's decision to escalate from individual case responses to systematic measures, including mandatory training and legislative amendments, which I shall describe shortly. Madam Speaker, the national KSAT reporting channels and intake. On reporting mechanisms, the National Kenya Computer Incident Response Team Coordination Center operates multiple channels: email, the mobile application, telephone, written responses, and physical visits. Childline Kenya operates a child helpline, 116, a 24-hour line. The National Center operates a digital forensic capability that supports the investigation and prosecution of cybercrimes, including online child sexual exploitation and abuse. Madam Speaker, on intake, in the first quarter of the financial year 2025-26, the National Center recorded 8 reports of child abuse. And in the second quarter...
Honorable CS, allow me to guide, let the members note the detail of your report. I realize the timing for the question is coming to an end, so you might want to summarize a bit more and just refer the members to the
Madam Speaker,
relevant paragraphs.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the guidance. I have offered, both in print and soft copy, my executive summary of what I've been trying to capture, which I was in page 8 or 15. So you may note, senators, that honourable senators, that the Office of
You
Data...
probably want to say something on the third and the fourth questions. I think the response to the second question is quite comprehensive.
Yes.
And I think members can read the detail for themselves. You probably want to say something about the third and the fourth question.
I've guided Madam Speaker. Honorable Senators, on the issue of assessment of minors' exposure, the Honorable Senator has asked whether the ministry has, in the last 5 years, undertaken an assessment. I must be candid with this House. The ministry has not, in the last 5 years, commissioned a single dedicated published national assessment covering all 4 vectors raised by the Honorable Senator. I acknowledge this gap, and I do not seek to minimize it. The Communications Authority of Kenya has accordingly commissioned the University of Nairobi to undertake the National Security on Child Online Protection and Safety in Kenya. In the interim, however, the ministry does not come before this House empty-handed. The evidence available drawn from the State of the Media 2025 survey, that report of the Media Council of Kenya, from the Distracting Harm in Kenya study of 2022, the National KSAT quarterly report, and from the Compliance Engagement of Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. The State of Media 2012 survey report documents all these issues, Madam Speaker, and they are available in our detailed response, which is 40 pages, I think. Madam Speaker, this is the finding I commend most particularly to this House. 63% of Kenyans are unable to identify content generated by artificial intelligence. 63% of our children are interacting principally with digital mobile first, algorithmic curated platforms with a limited editorial oversight against a population baseline that is not equipped to identify manipulated synthetic media. This is the risk landscape in which the safeguards of the Honorable Senator's question must be made to work. On gambling, exposure specifically, the data from the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is striking. Of 224 gaming and betting firms identified by the office, only 15, that is 6.7%, are fully registered. 13 firms are particularly registered, partially. 5 hold expired certificates. Action needs to be taken on this end, and the ministry is engaging the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner and the Gambling Regulatory Authority on a coordinated enforcement push, and the ministry will report progress to this House as it comes through. Madam Speaker, on the plans to strengthen the framework, I turn finally to the Honorable Senator's 4th question. What plans are in place to strengthen the framework? Drawing from comparative approaches in the UK, Australia, and the European Union, the comparative analysis is set out in full at Annex 3 of the principal statement. Drawing on that analysis, the ministry has settled on 8-plan reform agenda, Madam Speaker, which are detailed on my summary and on the main report. And 3 candid acknowledgements I would like to make, Madam Speaker. The ministry owes this House 3 further candid acknowledgements. First, the 2025 amendment to Section 6 of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, effected by Section 3 of the Act number 17 of 2025, which would have expanded the powers of the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee to render websites and applications inaccessible where they promote inappropriate sexual content involving minors, terrorism, regulations, extremes of cultism, has been challenged in the High Court, and interim conservatory orders have been issued suspending implementation of that amendment pending determination of the petition. The ministry respects the judicial process and will act in accordance with the orders of the court. Secondly, Madam Speaker, Kenya does not yet impose a statutory duty on online platforms to publish periodic transparency reports on takedowns, complaints, content classifications or recommended system risks. Closing this gap is the principal purpose of the proposed Kenya Online Survey Bill. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, the data handler registration deficit is in the gaming and betting sector, to which I have already referred, requires concerted efforts. The ministry is coordinating the Office of the Data Protection Commission and the Gambling Regulatory Authority on this work. So, Madam Speaker, in summary, our ask as a ministry to this House, against that practice, the ministry makes 4 respectful asks on this Honorable House. Ask number 1, Madam Speaker, is that the House receives this statement and that it allows the ministry to revert the findings of this national survey on child online protection and safety in Kenya on conclusion of the field, on the field work. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I ask that this House engage substantively with the legislative components of the reform agenda, and in particular, the Kenya Online Safety Bill and the proposed amendment to the Media Council Act, Cap 411B, when those instruments are introduced. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, is that this House supports the interagency compliance and inspection cycle through its relevant standing committees. And finally, Madam Speaker, is that this House take note of these litigations in respect of the Section 6 of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, with constraints, which constrains the ministry present ability to compel the takedown of scope content. In closing, finally, Honorable Senators, I thank the Honorable Senators for placing this matter on the floor of the Senate. The questions she has posed will outlast this Parliament. The harms to which they speak, to our children's safety, to their dignity or their privacy, to their right to grow up free. Exploitation is in these spaces in which they now live their daily lives admit of no partisan answer. My ministry remains committed to ensuring a safe, secure, and inclusive digital environment which Kenyan children can access and benefit from digital technologies while being adequately protected from harm. The ministry reaffirms its readiness to support the Senate in advancing legislative, regulatory, and policy interventions that safeguard the right and welfare of children in this digital space. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable CS. Honorable CS, you may sit as you wait for the subsidiary questions by the mover, Senator Hamida. And Honorable Senators, I will allow, after Senator Hamida asks, 2 more questions, one from this side, one from the other side, so that the CS can answer all of them together. Senator Hamida, you have opportunity to ask 2 subsidiary questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Bwana CS, I really want to appreciate at least the efforts that have been made to my response. I was just wondering whether there are investigations that have been undertaken, whether prosecutions have been initiated and convictions have been secured on this issue. One last one, because I've been told that I only have 2 questions. Does the ministry have any county-by-county data on our awareness on this program and undertaken on child online safety and public funds allocated on this matter? If the funds are allocated actually annually towards this child online protection initiatives, I hope, do you have any data on county by county? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I have Senator Mungatana.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to ask this question. Waziri, welcome. We are always happy to see one of us come here because you know how it has been and it has been before. Mr. Speaker, Tana River County has a very robust internet community, and it has served as a means of communication between the people and even leaders and the people. But then now, Madam Speaker, we are going into the electioneering period. And things are changing, not just in Tana River County, but across the 47 counties. More hatred is coming into the political discourse. Lack of
Senator
decorum.
Dr. Mungatana,
Yes.
I'm tempted to guide you. Please
Yes.
ask the question.
I'm getting there, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Lack of decorum from participants in the internet space. The question that I want to ask Waziri, as IEBC is preparing for the general election, which we hope will deliver a good election, what preparations are you making, proactive preparations are you making as a ministry through the ICT to go into this internet space so that good political discussions are done and not this dirt? Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I have seen one of our colleagues being exposed here fighting another colleague.
Senator, your question is clear. I'll allow you to see.
So
you're taking opportunity to actually make a contribution.
Thank you. I'm asking whether he has seen one of our colleagues being beaten to the ground, and then another AI-generated thing showing him beating his opponent. It's becoming nasty. What is the
Senator,
ministry
your
doing?
question is very clear. Senator Minority Leader, Senator Mazayo.
Asante Mstahiki Spika. Mstahiki Spika, nataka kuuliza swali kwa waziri. Waziri, unaweza kueleza kinaga ubaga kulinganishana na wizara yako imeanzisha imechukua hatua gani kuona kwamba sheria ama kuona kwamba taratibu ya watu kufanya kazi katika wizara yako na hali ya mitandao haiwezi inaweza kusaidia? Ni sheria gani katika wizara yako imetengeza ili kuweza kutetea hawa watoto wetu ambao mara nyingi wanaangalia upande wa mitandao, inakuwa rahisi wa kuingia? Ni hatua gani katika wizara yako imechukua kuona ya kwamba itaweza kuzuia, kutetea na kuona ya kwamba watoto wetu hawawezi kuingia katika ukorofi kama huu ambao wanaangalia picha zingine za watu wazima wanafanya mapenzi na hawa ni watoto wadogo? Kwa hiyo tunataka kujua ni hatua gani wizara yako imeweza kuchukua kuona ya kwamba hawa watoto wetu hawaingii katika ile mitandao kama ile. Asante, Speaker.
Honorable CS, I'll add 2 more questions. Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And also let me appreciate Bwana Waziri William for the great response that you've done. But definitely we have a few concerns, and directly to the point, Madam Speaker, I'm just curious in regards to the draft of the cybersecurity draft strategy that has been mentioned before. How many security professionals does Kenya currently need in terms of the opportunities that exist for our young people in the space of cyber security? And what's your take as the minister with the discussion that is in place?
Senator Mutinda, the rule is 1 question, and you've done that question.
It's just the curriculum factor that just wanted to hear from the ministry if there's anything that
is a second question.
Is thoughts in terms of curriculum. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's for our young people. Thank you so much.
Senator Eddie Okech.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity, and I've listened to the CS very keenly. And Madam Speaker, if you realize, the CS has really looked at the legislations and the legal actions and framework that exist in terms of this response. But I think that on this question, could the CS just be very clear on what is the ministry doing to hold the platforms accountable? Because this is the question. Because if you go to a place like the EU, we have got the Digital Services Act, but the last of that act is given life by the relevant ministries holding platforms accountable. Is there a framework that the ministry has put in place in this digital citizen world that ensures that Meta, that owns Facebook and owns WhatsApp and owns IG, that TikTok, that all these platforms have got an accountability framework to the country? This is the fundamental question I want to ask the minister.
Honorable CS, you may respond to those questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One undertaking I want to give, Madam Speaker, is because I may not comprehensively answer the substantive supplementary questions. As usual, I'll undertake to give comprehensive answers to all questions and any other that may arise from the questions of the Honorable Senator. Madam Speaker, on the issue of investigations, we have had several discussions with the Office of the DPP to give us information on the successes or failures of the many cases that they have forwarded. And Madam Speaker, that information is yet to come to us from the Office of the Prosecution Office, and I hope that by the time of close of the month, we shall have all the necessary cases prosecuted, their successes and failures and reasons thereof. Mr. Speaker, the Senator for Tana River has asked, during the electioneering period, whether we are prepared and what it is that we are doing in preparation of the elections and the things that may happen, as has been witnessed from some of the members here. We have, Madam Speaker, put together a committee of different departments, including security, our offices, the election, IEBC, to make sure that we are properly prepared during this period and going forward, that this becomes a continuous process, not only during elections. And I hope that by the time we get near December, we should be able to say exactly what we have planned. But again, Madam Speaker, I want to say this, that also it's incumbent upon us as leaders to be able to talk to our children and those that are under our care on how we discipline ourselves, a situation which will become the norm of the use of the internet space. I say this cognizant of the fact that there are countries like the UK that do not have a constitution, but they have the modes of how they operate. So we need to start talking about safe mtandaoni, and that only can come from us discussing as Kenyans, leaders, and all involved parties. The Senator Mazayo, I think, Judge Mazayo, asked a question on hatua gani tunachukua sisi kama wizara. Mheshimiwa Speaker, sheria moja ambayo tumesema imepelekwa kotini ilikuwa ni sheria ya kuweza kuondoa yale maneno imewekwa mitandaoni na kuweka chini, lakini mahakama imesimamisha sheria ile na zingine ambazo zilikuwa nia yetu kama wizara kwa kutengeza ile sheria ni kuweza kuruhusu shirika kama Communication Authority kuweza kuondoa mitandaoni hizo habari au maneno hayo ambao yanatekelezwa katika mtandao. tunahofia Mheshimiwa Spika kuwa hivi karibuni hiyo koti itaweza kuondoa hizo maneno za kuzuia, ili tuweze kung'ang'ana na story ya kuweza kuondoa habari mbaya au maneno mbaya ambayo inafanyika mitandaoni. Mheshimiwa Speaker, I think it was Senator Eddy, who says we need to have very clear as a ministry on the framework that we are doing. I tried, Madam Speaker, to explain on the frameworks, but you directed that I do not go into details. I undertake, Madam Speaker, to be able to bring a comprehensive answer on the frameworks and what it is the ministry is doing currently and the proposed actions in the future to make sure that this space is free and good for our children to indulge. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddy, what is your intervention? Certainly it cannot be a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I think that either the minister got my question wrong or did not just answer it at all. I did not ask about legal frameworks, Mr. Speaker. I indicated that the minister has centered on legal frameworks that exist. What I asked the minister is, how is the ministry holding platforms accountable? Because the legal frameworks are there to ensure that there is robust standards, to ensure that the safety standards are implemented according to our constitution within those legal frameworks, to ensure that there is fast reporting mechanisms, and to ensure that there is protection of minors. All these things exist. What is lacking is how do you hold those stakeholders who are owning these platforms accountable? For instance, Meta, that owns Facebook, that owns WhatsApp, that owns IG, are registered in Ireland. They're not registered in Kenya, yet their platforms are distributing content that do have impact on our children. What is the ministry doing to hold Meta accountable? What is the ministry doing to hold TikTok accountable? What is the ministry doing to hold these all social media platforms accountable to the frameworks and standards that have been established by the country? That's my question.
Yes, Honorable, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I quite agree with Senator Eddy that the issue of framework had been exhaustively explained. On what we are doing, Mr. Speaker, with players like TikTok and Meta, one action is the takedown action. The other action, Mr. Speaker, is that Communications Authority, through regulations, has been mandated now to stop operations of those platforms in the event of breach. But again, Mr. Speaker, we have issues that people run to court to stop us from doing certain things. But we have undertaken to be able to deal with these broadcasters, be it TikTok, be it Facebook, and some of them, Mr. Speaker, we have also given conditions in their licensing that they must have offices here in Kenya, so that in the event of issues that they have brought up on their platforms, they should be held accountable here in Kenya. And you remember, Mr. Speaker, if I may add, a platform like the one for Elon Musk, we have given them temporary approval licenses to operate in Kenya on condition that in the next 3 months, they shall have an office here. So we are taking action by having them here in Kenya and being subjected to our laws and measures that are there to protect our children. I submit, Mr.
Senator Boni.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, Safaricom announced profits of 100 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. What is the minister doing to ensure that this theft, open theft, by a company which is not in business but is doing profiteering, young people are protected by having access to cheaper rates of using ICT? especially, Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that your government promised Kenyans, especially the youth, free Wi-Fi for them to be elected.
Senator Munyahaji.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Yangu mimi ni swala kuhusiana na matangazo ya rejareja kuhusiana na mambo ya kamari, yani betting. Ukifungua redio kila baada ya dakika 10 kuna tangazo la betting. Kila baada ya dakika 10 kuna tangazo la betting. Je, wizara yako Mheshimiwa Kabogo inafanya nini kupunguza ama kuondoa kabisa haya matangazo ya kamari ambayo yamekithiri katika vyombo vya habari katika nchi yetu?
Senator Kathuri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity also to ask my supplementary question. Mr. Speaker, the question asked by Senator Aminda Kibwana falls under the law that we passed in this House last year, which is the Computer Misuse and the Cybercrimes Amendment Act 2025. Mr. Speaker, that is where you'll find we amended the Principal Act by inserting subsections in Section 6, JA, which now refers to where it is proved that a website or application promotes unlawful activities, inappropriate sexual content of a minor, terrorism or religious extremism, and cultism. So, Mr. Speaker, my question is, what is the ministry doing to operationalize this law, Mr. Speaker? Because there are a lot of cyberbullying, Mr. Speaker. Yours truly is actually, I am a culprit this week, Mr. Speaker, where something is circulating in social media that I was in a place somewhere, I can remind you, I don't know what it was, Mr. Speaker. Somebody pretending to have voice in Bias like Kaduri Murungi, which is not myself, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, my question is, because there are so many such issues, even I saw one time, Mr. Speaker, the President of the Republic of Kenya was actually in these cyber crimes, in a coffin somewhere like he's dead, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, so many cases are being reported. I will circulate to you.
Order, Senator Fernandez.
So, Mr. Speaker, my question is, because there are so many cases which are being reported out there, but the police, even once you go report to the CID, they have nothing to do. They cannot protect you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking this question painfully, that I passed this law in this House, I voted for it, I'm now a culprit, and Mr. Speaker, this law is not even helping me, because I went to ask very senior CID officers, and they told me there is nothing much they can do, because they need a lot of technology so that they can identify the source, who was the principal source of this misuse, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Senator Kibwana, even though she approached me yesterday, and it's like she knows who was the first person to do this thing. Because the questions she asked me yesterday, it's like they are so much reading. Like even she's aware who was this person who did this to me. Character assassination.
Thank you, Senator Kathuri. You've asked
so my
your
question is the operationalization of this law, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable CS, thank you so much for a comprehensive report. But Kenya is becoming well known for good laws, good constitution, no implementation. You admit to the fact that the gambling companies that are operating in Kenya and misleading our young people are way more than the ones that are legal. I would want to know exactly who is supposed to deregister these companies, because you cannot come here and say there are so many that are not working. It is the executive that should actually be implementing the law that should not facilitate such companies to operate, because we know what they are doing to our young people.
Senator Karungo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, CS. Mr. Speaker, I'm always happy when I see a citizen of Kiambu serving the nation. My question, having scanned through the response, which I can say is unusually honest, because it reveals weak enforcement, weak data, and weak accountability, my question is, from the report, only 15 out of 224 gambling and betting firms are fully registered. That is, 93% of them are not registered. My question is, can the CS explain why? Because they are out there collecting data from Kenyan citizens and mostly Kenyan minors. That is in your report, table 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chesang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have one concern, Mr. Speaker, and I would also like to know what the ministry, what is the ministry's plan in terms of solving this issue. Mr. Speaker, the government has spent so much money to put infrastructure and open so many ICT hubs in the country, including in our polytechnics, the ones that are being built now, the Center of Excellence, and the ones that are deployed through our Member of Parliaments, the 1,450 hubs in the country. Mr. Speaker, personally, as the ICT chairman, I have so far accompanied the ministry in opening so many of those ICT hubs. And my worry is the ones that have gone back to, Mr. Speaker, are not working in the way that they are intended to work, in terms of assisting many of our youths, creating employment, and...
Senator Allen, what is your question?
I'm going
and
to
avoid
ask my
making
question.
a speech.
I'm asking my question. So, Mr. Speaker, many of our youths are not monetizing in those ICT hubs. So, the 1450 hubs, my question is now that the 1450 hubs that are being built across the country in each and every ward, what is the ministry's plan in making sure that when these hubs are finished, and we have many of our youths across in all these 47 counties in these hubs, what is the measures that the ministry is taking to make sure that once these hubs are fully equipped, that they can serve the purpose that they're supposed to be intended to do? Because
Senator Mazayo.
Ask the question.
Well, Senator Mazayo, I'm told you had already asked a supplementary question. Under standing order, you're only allowed one to ask one supplementary question. So, CS Kabogo, you had noted the question by Senator Mazayo. You need to clarify further, because the Honorable Senator is saying it was inadequately responded to. You may proceed, CS.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, swala la Mheshimiwa Mazayo nilijaribu sana kwa lugha yetu ya Kiswahili kujibu. I did it to the best of my ability as I sit here. But Mr. Speaker, as I started answering supplementary questions, I did give an undertaking that after we get proper questions on the handset, the ministry will undertake to bring a supplementary paper on all questions that are asked on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, on the question asked by the Honorable Bonnie on the issue of Safaricom, I'm afraid, Mr. Speaker, I am not aware of Safaricom making dubious profits. I probably would want to seek further guidance on that statement the Honorable Bonnie asked. But on the issue of Wi-Fi, we did promise, yes, Kenyans, that we shall put public hotspots. Initially, Mr. Speaker, only about 3,500 public Wi-Fi hotspots were working when I joined the ministry. And the problem that we have on the many that are not working is that sustainability issues were not considered during inception. And a team has been put together, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that we get a sustainable way of maintaining, because some of them is not even bills, it is just an issue of maintenance. What we have proposed and are doing now in the ministry on the issue of public Wi-Fi, Mr. Speaker, is to give this Wi-Fi business to the young boys and girls where they are, for them to maintain on a small fee of about 5 shillings for anyone who wants to use this Wi-Fi. It's now undergoing public participation between the ministry and other involved parties, so that we may actualize the issue of making sure that public Wi-Fi hotspots are maintained by young Kenyan boys and girls where they are. So I envisage, Mr. Speaker, that by the end of the year, we should have about 10,000 public Wi-Fi hotspots working and running in those public areas. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of betting kutoka kwa Mheshimiwa Haji, nilisema katika taarifa niliyopeana hapa, Mheshimiwa Speaker, kuwa shida kubwa sana imetokezana na mambo ya betting, na 70% ya shida nyingi ambazo zinapatikana mitandaoni haswa zinakuja kulingana na mambo hayo ya betting. Tuna habari kwamba, Mheshimiwa Speaker, hata vijana wengine hushikia wamama nyumbani kisu, ampe 100 ili akaweze kwenda kufanya maneno ya betting. Kwa hivyo kipaumbele katika wizara yetu ya mawasiliano ni kuweza kufuatia sheria ambazo zimewekwa. Japokuwa changamoto, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni kuwa kila sheria ikiwekwa na ni sheria nzuri, Wakenya hukimbia kotini haraka na kuweza kusimamisha. Lakini Mheshimiwa Speaker, nipeane ahadi hapa katika bunge la Senate kuwa wizara itakabiliana na shida hizi zinaambatana na maneno ya betting vilivyo, ili tuweze kusaidia nchi yetu kusonga mbele bila shida hizi za betting controls. Mheshimiwa Speaker, on the other matter raised by the Honorable Katuri, a very serious concern, yes. Many of us have suffered. And this is what, Mr. Speaker, I expressed in my statement, that we already now have laws and regulations to be able to deal with this issue, especially one, the take-down part of it, which, Mr. Speaker, I have said we've been stopped by the current matter in court, and we hope that this matter will be cleared soonest for us to be able to take action. Also, Mr. Speaker, we have a committee between the ministry, the regulators, and the office of DPP to make sure that most of these cases are prosecuted ASAP. Again, we have a problem there because, as you know, our criminal procedure systems require certain procedures to happen as people are taken to for criminal prosecution, Mr. Speaker. From Senator Senator Karongo, he asked, out of 224 cases of licensing, only 15 are fully licensed. The others are partially, I have explained there. But, Mr. Speaker, we've given the agencies 40 days to be able to make sure that those that are in the process of properly registering are registered within that period, without which their licenses should be cancelled, Mr. Speaker. And that is ongoing, Mr. Speaker. Senator Chisang asked on the issue of the 1,450 digital hubs and what plans we have. Mr. Speaker, we currently have trainings going on for young Kenyans who will be engaged as trainers to be taken into those digital hubs where they shall become trainers of trainers to train those that will be responsible for training young Kenyans who are using these digital hubs as platforms for digital economy. I want to tell the House that also recently we have engaged a company that is giving us 700,000 trainings to young men and women, which will be issued with certificates of online platform using. So the ministry is aware. We're also a little bit slow on the issue of completion of these digital hubs, and we have spoken to members of parliament to try and expedite the construction of these digital hubs. We currently are having devices to take to those that are ready, and this exercise is ongoing, and Senator Chesang, being the chair of the ICT committee, is very involved in the process of bringing these hubs to working. What was the other one? I think that's all, Mr. Speaker, unless I have missed any. But again, Mr. Speaker, as I said, I undertake to bring in, once we get the answer to get the proper questions, we shall bring in a substantive answer for each and every one of them. I submit.
Yes, Senator Kathuri. What's your intervention?
Honorable Speaker, I'm not sure whether you're attempting to answer my question. So maybe you can do that before he leaves.
Mr. Speaker, this is the one that I said we're having issues on taking down those things that, for example, what I have seen that you referred to because of the current court case. We are trying to lift that ban in court so that we can start doing it. But our hands are tied at the moment. But between us and the regulators and those that are involved, there is something the ministry is doing to make sure that we can put a stop to them before they are aired. And that is happening. Again, not trying to circumvent the matter that is before court, Mr. Speaker. But again, I said we shall try and make sure that you have comprehensive answers to each and every question. And we even ask those that had supplementary questions that they didn't ask, if they can be forwarded to the ministry, we shall be more than willing to answer, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Sears. You may now take leave. Honorable Senators, we will move to question number 027 by the Senator for Kisumu County, the Honorable Tom Ojenda.